On today's show, the Cleveland Cavaliers fall to the Atlanta Hawks again. I don't think this one is as big of a deal as Wednesday night's loss, and I'll tell you why on today's Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name's Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like 92.3 The Fan, Cleveland Magazine, my new Substack, The Inside Shot. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I've said, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating, leave us a nice review, be a friend, tell a friend about Locked On Cavs, make sure you're subscribed, make sure a friend is subscribed as well. The show is also available on YouTube. So if you're watching this right now, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show, of course, is sponsored by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So the Cavs lose on Friday afternoon in Atlanta, 117-101, and they are now eliminated from NBA Cup contention. This loss was a frustrating one, I think. I think a lot of Cavs fans are going to be frustrated about this one, but I do look at there being some positive signs from this game. I also think it's silly to be as frustrated. I think some Cavs fans probably are because, listen, I get wanting to win the NBA Cup, and that was a goal for this team, and that is a goal that they have fallen short of. They're not going to Vegas. Tuesday night's NBA Cup group play finale for them against Washington is now a meaningless game as far as that goes. It still matters for the regular season, but it's meaningless as far as NBA Cup stuff goes. So the way that I look at this is, yes, the Cavs just lost 2 games to a team in Atlanta that they are better than. They were favored by more than 10 points on Wednesday night. They were favored by almost 6 points. I believe it was 5.5. They were favored by on Friday in Atlanta. The way they lost Wednesday's game, I thought was concerning. And I thought that was something that needed to be looked at because it was yet another defensive lapse. It was yet another game where a team just destroyed the Cavs from 3-point range. There weren't very many positive things, I think, to take away from what the Cavs did defensively on Wednesday night at home. I thought the Cavs lost on Friday because they played terribly offensively. I don't think it was a bad process on offense. I just thought they didn't make shots. That's why this loss to me is not one that's super concerning because how often is Donovan Mitchell going to have a night where he was 5 of 23? I think he missed his first 10 or 11 shots from the floor. He was just objectively bad in this game on offense. The Cavs didn't shoot the ball very well. I didn't think that their offense was bad. I just thought that they missed shots. Like one of the things that Kenny Atkinson speaks about almost every single time he meets with us media members is shot quality. I've asked him a ton about offensive process. I've asked him a ton about defending the 3-point line. And the thing he brings up in almost every answer that he gives when I ask those questions include the word shot quality. So now one of the things that I do while games are going on is I'm monitoring what the shot quality is for each team. Like which team is getting better looks at the basket, which team is playing a better offensive game, regardless of whether or not the ball goes in the basket. Of course, that is what ultimately decides the game, but it is something that you can look back on and say, okay, that was a big reason why a team won or lost the game because they played great offensively, or it could be, well, a team just kind of missed shots. The Cavs on Friday night actually had a higher shot quality score than the Hawks did. The Cavs just missed shots. That's why I don't think that this is a game that you should be overly concerned of. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't things worth talking about because there are. I do want to talk about the defense because that third quarter was bad, and it's time to have a conversation about the bench a little bit too. But this loss is also not something that you look and say, okay, it's time to press the panic button because that's not fair either, right? They've lost 2 games to a team that they should have beaten. They're still 17-3. They're 20 games in and they're 17-3. If I would have told you at a month and a half ago before the season started, when we're just wrapping up the preseason, if I would have said, hey, the Cavs are going to be 17-3 through 20 games, no matter what, you would have signed up for that. I wouldn't have had to say anything else. I could say those 3 losses, they lost each game by 30 points. Would not have mattered. You take 17-3, and that's where the Cavs are at. But there are some things like Donovan Mitchell's performance on Friday just wasn't very good. To me, I look at that as, okay, that's the biggest reason why the Cavs lost this game. And I do think one of the other things that has been consistent throughout this season for the Cavs is they have been a team that has won the battle for 50-50 balls pretty frequently. And it feels like in each of these two games against the Hawks, which were two very different games, but in each of these two games against the Hawks, it feels like those 50-50 balls that had kind of felt like 60-40 balls in the Cavs' favor turned into like 80-20 balls against them. And that's going to happen throughout the course of an NBA season. A team is going to go cold offensively throughout the course of an NBA season, which they sort of did on Wednesday, and they absolutely did on Friday, right? Those things are going to happen. I don't think that this loss is all that concerning. I actually thought that this was, if the Cavs just would have played an average offensive game, I think we would have been looking at this as, okay, this was a really good response to a clunker, a stinker of a game, as Kenny Atkinson called Wednesday night. But because they missed a ton of shots, they missed a ton of solid looks, okay, it doesn't look as good. But the way they played defensively was good enough to win. If they have that sort of effort defensively, that is a better defensive game than almost anything they've played against real competition, right? Like, I'm not going to count that game against New Orleans where they basically played the Pelicans G League team because so many guys for New Orleans were out. But that was one of the better defensive games that they've played in the last couple of weeks. Their defensive rating on Friday against the Hawks was 114.7. It's not great, but it's much better than it has been. Their defensive rating on Wednesday night was like 128. So they were much, much better defensively. They really had one bad quarter where they gave up a few offensive rebounds in the third quarter. They got beat up pretty good in the paint in that quarter. I think the Hawks scored 22 points in the paint in that third quarter. They hit a couple of threes. I thought the 3-point defense was a little bit better. They forced a ton of turnovers today, which was really good. I thought early on in the game, and maybe this is something to be concerned about, and I'll talk about this a little bit coming up later in the show. Early in the game, I thought the Cavs had great energy again. Just like on Wednesday night, early in the game, when they got out to that 27-8 lead, the Cavs had great energy. Then that energy kind of went away, right? You didn't feel like they had great energy the rest of the night. That might be something to be concerned about. But overall, the thing I take from this game is the Hawks shot the ball better than the Cavs. The Cavs played fine defense. Their offensive process was fine. But they're just, truthfully, when Donovan Mitchell goes 5 of 23 from the floor, the Cavs are not going to win very many games. That's just how it goes. That is how today, like, I thought Darius Garland was really good. Thought Evan Mobley was really good. But when your superstar has a game the way that Donovan Mitchell did on Friday, where he's 5 of 23, only has 12 points. Now, credit to him, he had 11 rebounds, like he picked up slack elsewhere, which is something I think we've seen Donovan do when he knows he doesn't have it going on scoring. I think we've seen him kind of pick up the slack on the other end, primarily attacking the ball off the glass. So credit to him for that. But they're just not going to win many games when the offense is as bad as it was. They couldn't hit shots. Doesn't mean they played terribly. I think that this one is one that is much easier to just say, you know what? It happens. They got outplayed by the Hawks. It is what it is. I think there's a lot to be learned from Wednesday night's game. I don't know that there's a ton to be learned from this game. If you're Kenny Atkinson, I don't know that the film session they will likely have tomorrow is one where it's going to be, oh, wow, we did this, and this wrong. I don't think they played that poorly on offense. I think they just missed a bunch of shots. It's a make or miss league. So when that happens, you're not going to win many basketball games. It's hard to win games shooting the ball as poorly as they did. But that doesn't mean that everything from Friday is just bad, because I did think the defense was good. I thought the third quarter really on both ends was a disaster. That's where this game was lost, because the Cavs, for what it is, the Cavs only gave up 30 or more points in one quarter on Friday. They gave up 29 in the first, 23 in the second, 26 in the fourth, but they gave up 39 in the third. They fell apart on both ends of the floor. They were outscored by 16 points in that quarter. And you know what they lost the game by? They lost the game by 16 points. I do want to talk about Evan Mobley. I do want to talk about Darius Garland. And I want to talk a little bit more about the defense because, like I said, I don't think that it's something to be concerned about. I thought we saw a step in the right direction. And we'll talk about all that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Skylight Frames. This is something that makes a great holiday gift. And I got my mother, my sister and I should say, I should give credit to my sister for this too. We got my mother a Skylight frame probably 2 or 3 years ago at this point. And what Skylight frames are think of having a picture in a frame, right? It can be hanging up, it can be sitting on maybe your counter, on your desk. People like to have fond memories or loved ones in photo frames. Well, what if that frame could change photos? What if you could update that frame with new photos every single day or as often as you'd like? Maybe you don't want to do it every single day. I don't know what your habits are. Skylight Frames gives you the ability to do that. So what we do is when we're out and about, if we're doing something cool, or if I take a photo with my fiance, I can send that photo to an email address and it'll pop up on my mom's photo frame at her house. It's a really cool thing. It makes for a great gift idea. My mom has one. My fiance and I have one here at our place. It's an awesome gift idea. We've had it for years. We could not be happier with the gift we gave my mom. And if it's a gift that you think you should be giving somebody this holiday season, it's a great idea. It's super easy to set up. Setup takes less than a minute. You can do this. It's very hassle-free. It's very, very user-friendly. You can invite friends and family, like I said, to easily share photos either via the free Skylight mobile app or an email to an account that you do set up. And there's no subscription required to do this. So you can add new photos straight from your phone from anywhere in the world. It's a really, really cool thing. And now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of a Skyline frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NBA. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NBA. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/NBA. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show everywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating, leave a nice review, be a friend, tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. And if you're looking for more written coverage about the Cleveland Cavaliers, check out my new Substack, The Inside Shot. Right now, running a Cyber Weekend sale where you can get 20% off all subscriptions. That means it's less than $5 a month right now, less than $50 for the year. Pretty good deal. If you ask me, check that out. A link is in the episode description below if you're watching on YouTube or, like I said earlier, wherever you get your podcast. So Evan Mobley, I thought, had a terrific first half. I don't think his second half was quite as good on Friday night for the Cavs, but I thought that there were certainly stretches where he was the guy that you could look at and say, okay, that guy's bringing it tonight. And I think that has been something that, we could say that on Wednesday against Atlanta as well. I think we're starting to see him be more consistent, more aggressive offensively, where he went out on Friday, had another 20-10 game, 24 points, 12 rebounds. Thought there's a lot to be encouraged by with the way that he's playing offensively. Thought you can say the same thing about Darius Garland, where he was really the only one that was hitting shots for the Cavs. He was 5 of 8 from 3. He was really, really good. He had 29 points. Donovan Mitchell was 2 of 10. Like, that's where that game was lost. But offensively, it was kind of Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and nobody else because everyone on the bench played relatively poorly. George Niang had a rough night. Caris LeVert, while it was good to have him back for the Cavs, and he went on that little stretch in, I believe it was in the third quarter, where he went on that little run, hit a couple of threes, got to the basket once. That was good to see. But I think it's going to take some time for him to get back into form. And that's not a big deal. Not a big deal whatsoever. Sam Merrill hasn't been playing great as of lately. Ty Jerome was okay. We've seen much better Ty Jerome games recently than the one we saw on Friday. I did think that it was interesting to see Jalen Tyson still in the rotation. I thought that was a positive sign that Jalen Tyson was still in the rotation despite Caris LeVert coming back from injury. Because that was a question that I had going into this game was, okay, well, Jalen has played the last couple of nights, but the Cavs are down on wing depth. And they're still down on wing depth because they don't have Dean Wade. And I do think that we might see Dean Wade on Sunday as he continues to work his way back from an ankle injury. So seeing Jalen Tyson play, I know the last 2 minutes Kenny Atkinson pulled the starter. So really it was like 8 or 10 minutes of playing time. But seeing Tyson play significant real minutes, and I thought he brought energy, and I think he does bring something that no one else on the Cavs really does bring right now, and that's offensive rebounding. Like, he just seems to have a knack for it. And he created some easy points there, which I do think is a valuable thing. And as the year goes on, I think we're going to see him start to play more. I think he's starting to earn some trust. I think he's starting to earn some minutes. And I know that the Cavs love him. They love his work ethic. And I think that we're going to start to see him get to play just a little bit more. I do. But defensively is going to be the thing that should be talked about from this game, because I do think the Cavs were better on that end. Atlanta shot the ball well. And there are some nights, and I talked about this a little bit on Wednesday night after that game. There are some nights where you just kind of got to tip your cap to the opponent because they make shots. And there was a stretch in the fourth quarter. So Trae Young, and listen, it's Trae Young. He's a superstar. He's going to make superstar plays. He had a step back three in the corner that Darius Garland, I thought, defended really well and went in. And you know what? I don't think there was anything else Darius Garland could have done. And then a little bit later on, the Cavs played, I thought, a terrific defensive possession. The ball finds Onyeka Okongwu for Atlanta in the right corner as the shot clock is expiring. Okongwu is a 17% three-point shooter. Buries the three. Like, when that happens, and then I think 2 possessions later, Dyson Daniels, who also is, right around 30% as a shooter from beyond the arc, he gets the ball as the shot clock's expiring from the top of the key, buries a three. When those things happen, I think it's just kind of a sign that it's not your night. Now, that was late in the game. If those shots don't go to the Cavs win this game, probably not, but they have a better chance. Especially as that was, I thought, at a point in the game where they're starting to make a bit of a run. So yeah, that is frustrating, but I don't think that we should look at this game as the Cavs lost because they didn't defend well again. Like, yeah, Atlanta shot 41% from three. They shot over 50% from the floor. But the Cavs also forced a ton of turnovers. Like, that was a big reason why, too, that you can look at this Cavs defensive effort and say it was better. Their defensive rating on Wednesday was like 128. It was the worst defensive game the Cavs have played all season. The Cavs have played like 10 games on defense, worse than this one on Friday night, that they've won so far this year, which that speaks to the Cavs defense not being as good as it should be. But I think that you can look at this game and say, okay, maybe this is a step in the right direction. Now, we're going to have to see what things look like on Sunday in Boston. I will talk about looking ahead to that game coming up in a minute here. But this could be a game that we look at and say, okay, even though the Cavs lost, even though offensively they just didn't hit shots, the process on both ends of the floor, I didn't think was poor. I thought that this game is one that, if Kenny Atkinson called Wednesday night's game a stinker, and I know that no coach is ever going to be happy after a loss, especially when you lose to a team that you are better than, like the Cavs are better than the Atlanta Hawks twice in a row, it's going to be frustrating. But I thought that the response the Cavs had from Wednesday to Friday was appropriate. They just missed shots. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think Kenny Atkinson and that coaching staff should have flushed Wednesday's game down the toilet like it was a stinker, but you have to learn from that. I'm not sure what to learn from this game, because can you learn that you just missed shots? I don't think so. You can learn that, okay, this is what it's going to take defensively, and maybe that's the learning lesson from this game is this was a much better effort on that end of the floor. It's going to take that and more for this team to get to where they want to go to, but you have to hit shots too. Like, if the Cavs would have played this exact defensive game on Wednesday, they would have beat the Hawks by probably 15, maybe a little bit less. But that's the kind of defensive game they played. It's just when their offense was so bad. And that was a cold shooting night on Wednesday night too. The Cavs have not been good on offense all week. They've had 2 subpar offensive games. And I think part of it too, they were always going to regress a little bit. They had been shooting 41% or 42% from deep. They entered the week with the best offensive rating of all time. That was going to come down a little bit. It's not to say it won't go back up, but this was a team that was always going to regress to some extent. And I think that Friday night kind of was that regression on offense, where no one shot the ball well other than Darius Garland. Evan Mobley had a good game too, but you shoot 29% from three, you're not going to win a lot of basketball games. Even when you're not taking a ton of them, they only took 38, so it wasn't as if they were just feast or famine from behind the arc, sort of the way they were on Wednesday night, where I think they took 48 threes in that game. It wasn't feast or famine, but you have to shoot better than 40% from the floor. And I don't think that this is, and I know the response is, well, the Hawks have a ton of long athletic wings. Sure, they do. I don't think the Cavs were taking bad shots. I don't think Atlanta came out and played, who Atlanta is a bottom 10 defensive team. I don't think Atlanta came out and played just some awesome defensive game. I thought the Cavs missed some good looks. And that's going to happen throughout the course of a season. It's going to happen. It's not a big deal. I think that this game is one that you're not going to think of, because there's a chance at the end of the season, this game is just such an outlier compared to how this team operates and how this team looks. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's one that's worth flushing. I do think right now, in the spirit of flushing this one down the drain, let's look ahead to the Cavs taking on the Boston Celtics Sunday in what is a really big game for both teams next, right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. That sounds like a really good deal to me. I want you to have $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel is the place that's going to do it for you right now. If you are a new customer, and then go win your first $5 bet. Hope you didn't bet on the Cavs on Friday. Maybe you want a live bet in an NFL game. As I record this right now, Kansas City and Las Vegas are playing. Maybe as I look at right now, KC is alive 2.5. I like that. I think KC is going to win. I don't think Vegas is very good. Or maybe Saturday, rivalry Saturday in college football. Let's go down to a game happening in Columbus, Ohio, as a school from the state of Michigan is coming to town. Many of you, I'm sure, are very excited for this one. Ohio State favored by 19.5. I like that. I think they're going to destroy Michigan. I think they're going to absolutely throttle the Wolverines after what has happened for the last several years. Ohio State's not beat Michigan. It'll be 5 years to the day on Saturday. I think they're going to exact quite a bit of vengeance on Saturday. So maybe you like that. That could be your way. If you're a new customer, that could be your ticket to $150 in bonus bets. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, like maybe I do right now with Kansas City, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said at the top of the show, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. Now, Sunday is a really big game for the Cavs. They don't want to be a team, obviously, to this point now, they've dropped 2 in a row. It's the first time all year they've lost 2 in a row. I think a good goal for this team, not just beating Boston, which would be a statement win. It would be a great response to losing 2 in a row. But I do think a good goal for this team is to go throughout the season and not lose 3 in a row at any point. Now, to do that, they have to win on Sunday. If they lose on Sunday, that would be 3 straight losses. And I think that'd be a bit of an eyebrow-raising thing, considering they would have started the year 15-0, and then next thing you know, they're 17-4. That would be a little bit, I don't want to say alarming, because they're still in great shape. Like, they're fine. But I think it would be something that would raise some eyebrows. And I think because Boston is going to come into this game, one, I don't know that everyone's going to play because it is a back-to-back for the Celtics. They play on Monday as well. So I could see one of Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford not playing in this one on Sunday. So the other one does play on, one plays Sunday, one plays Monday, basically. So I don't know that we're going to get the full strength Celtics, although maybe they sit them both on Monday. I don't know what they're going to do. I could see that being the case. I'll be very interested to see the injury report that comes out on Saturday about that. But that could be a strategy they use. But I do think that the Cavs need to make a statement against this Boston team. I think they need to go out and I think they need to say, you know what, those last 2 games were not who we are. Those last 2 games were a little bit of a fluke. I think they were a little bit of a fluke. Now, I thought Wednesday was a bad performance. I thought Friday, the energy was better. It wasn't great, but it was better. Defensively, they played fine. Offensively, they missed shots. Getting back home, starting a homestand where they play at home. I think 5 of their next 6 are at home. Although we don't know what the schedule is going to look like after that, because now they'll have 2 just regular season games as part of the NBA Cup instead of advancing to Vegas. But I think that this is a chance to say, you know what? No, we're not that team. We're going to come out. We're going to play better basketball. We are going to be the team that won 15 straight to start the season rather than the team that has lost 3 of its last 5 games. That's what Sunday's an opportunity to do. Boston's going to come in here, no matter who's playing for the Celtics. They're going to be motivated. They're going to want to make another statement, and they're going to want to climb into first place in the East. Like, it's crazy to say because the Cavs got off to such a good start. Right now, and Boston plays later tonight after I record this. I'm recording this, it's like 6 o'clock Friday. So Boston plays Chicago later tonight. It could be like a 1-game difference between the Cavs and Celtics in the standings, despite how good of a start the Cavs gotten off to. So this is an opportunity to, and you do have to start looking ahead to tiebreaker scenarios in this game. If you think the Cavs are going to be a team competing for the 1 seed with the Celtics, which I do think they're going to be doing, you have to start thinking about, okay, how are we at tiebreaker position? What does that look like? The Cavs play Boston 4 times this year. They're 0-1. So if they lose on Sunday, that means they can do no better than split the season series. That is something they need. They need to find a way to win Sunday. It's not a must win because it's November, or I guess it'll be December 1st. But it's a big game. It's a game that I would like to see the Cavs come out and give a much better performance in than what we've seen the last few games, because it has not been up to the Cavs standard. That doesn't mean that it's a big deal. It doesn't mean that it's time to press the panic button, because it's not. But I'd like to see a better performance from this team on Sunday at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. So, like I said, thank you for me. Probably not your first listen today. This is coming out Friday evening after an afternoon game, but I did want to get you guys content going off to the weekend. So thank you for listening to Locked On Cavs today. Make it your first listen on Monday when I'm back Monday morning after the Cavs take on the Celtics. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review as well. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. And if you're looking for more, running a sale over at the Inside Shot, 20% off this weekend, going till Tuesday. So if you want to sign up for some Cavs written content from me, stories, game analysis, all that good stuff, you can find it at the Inside Shot. It's 20% off now through Tuesday. So give that a shot. A link is in the episode description. But like I said, thanks for listening today. I will be back on Monday with more Locked On Cavs.